נגיע לעניין של תורת החסידות. והחידוש שבאכל כתש is gone from now and now to be now. This is the Rabbah the Rebbe is not coming to explain here. That's clear that Toras HaChassidus is a chelik of Torah. As a chelik of Torah, Chachmas Torah Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu means we get to just illuminating what's the legitimacy of Chassidus as part of Yiddishkeit. That's not the shaila is every chelik in Torah has a certain Inyan. What he came to accomplish, what he came to, what's the mechuban of this chelik in Torah. The chelik halacha shel Torah, the marshal is to tell the person, lay that samay sheyasu. Then you have every chelik in Torah has its function. What he wants the Vasifal Ufta. The person, a Vedus Adam, Kabbalist, Vizalav Nidia Seder Eshtashulus, let's say, you know, they're a Muslim in each mitzvah. Now there's this Chelik Adrush, every Chelik in Torah has its Inyan, Vasarville, what he's looking to teach and what he's looking to accomplish. What's the Inyan of Chassidus? What's the Chassidus Ufta? Benefesh Adam, what's the Ikra, what the Rebbe speaks in this Kuntres, what's the Inyona of Chassidus, what it wants the Vasarville Ufta in a Veiz of Benefesh Adam. Umas all other Chalkas. You get to how to know how to be a Kai mitzvah, so we have the Shloime. You get to knowing understanding the Eibishers, the Chachmas Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Gaia De'iraisa. So you have Nikla the Torah, Gemara, then you have Medrash. What's the Inyona of Toras HaChassidus? Toras HaChassidus we come in Uftan. And you understand, and how it's a Chiddush, how the other Chalkei Torah don't include this Inyan, this is Uftan. That's the Shaila. So that says many Shiurim, we may have at least 4 Shiurim. First thing is the Shel Hashem to the Elam Matzim Shel Salfos. That I think Elam Hashem to Toras HaChassidus is Elam Yisalfos. That Parshas Advarim, the same you see in the Mashal Benefesh Adam, there's a regular case, and the person is awake, so his Nefesh and his Kefes and Melubish and his Guf, it's a Seichel and his Midas and his Melubish and his Yivarim. When a person is sleeping, so there's the Tzidok and Nefesh Nefesh. There's different darkness in sleeping. Even when a person is asleep, it's easy to wake him up. This Alpha is a very deep and a very strong level of sleep, that the Nefesh is very strongly misulik from the Guf. And the male, in order to wake up a person when he's in a state of this Alpha, it's not enough just to make a little noise. Since the Nefesh is a much greater siluk than a regular siluk of Shina, so in order to wake him up, you need to have special skulis. You need a chazak, you have to call his name, you have to make it from etzem achayis. It says when a person is this Alpha, so the keiches are in ganz in this alim. The only thing that's left is the kesher of the etzem nefesh with the Guf. And therefore, it's a whole different way of a whole different type of silik nefesh with the Guf. So there was a Inyona. There's the Mitzias Ha'elam, there's the Mitzias Ha'viyid, and there's the Eibusher is the Chayis, the Batam Chayis Kum, the Eibusher is the Primis, there's the Neshama Ha'viyid. So before this, Gal Sal Hashem, Tzis Kufis, before, so the Neshama was no way that it was a Yidden were awake. The Neshama was, even if Yidden were asleep, but there's no way that the Neshama was still Bikiruf to the Guf, to the Mitzias Ha'viyid. And in order to me'er a Yiz Neshama, a Yiz Chayis, a Yiz Aven, a Yiz Yiras Hashem, a Yiz Neshama, a Yiz Shaykas to the Eibusher, but when you got onkom to such a strong kayach, because the Neshama L'chatchila wasn't in a way that it was fully misulik, fully detached, fully aloof from the Guf. Masha'ekin, Mizman al-Hashem, so the Elam was the Matzav of Alphas. That means that the Chayis Eliki, and I'll tell you something to get to the Yid, the Neshama of a Yid was in a state of siluk. It was in Gansim Misulik. There, when a person is faints, that his nefesh, his chayis, is masulik from his guf, his nefesh chayunas for pashtus. So there's a Baruch Hussein Yonim, the neshama and the chayis eliki of a yid, and I'll tell us the chayis eliki of the world, was masulik legam, was be a state of itself. So regularly, in order to me'er the neshama of a yid, that's enough nigla the Torah. Nigla the Torah has the power to me'er megal the neshama of a yid. Masha'ekin, once there was a alphas, there was a much stronger siluk, and a much stronger, say, netek of the neshama with the guf. So in order to me'er, you should have Abbas Hashem, Yiras Hashem, to have a chayis and a shakas to the guf. To me'er the neshama, you have to have a much stronger kayach. And that's the kayach of Toras HaChassidus, to me'er the neshama, to me'er even in a state of Esalfas. Yeah, the Rebbe wrote on the Gilin of the Kuntres, in the Lashon is this Erev Elam Esalfas. But the Rebbe wrote that Yisrael Ha'iv Esalfas, and since the Matzah El was told in a Yid, so the world is also such a Yid. The point was that the Chayis Elikir, the Neshama of a Yid, as a result, the Chayis Elikir, the fact that the world is Shayach Talakos, there was no way, besides Nigla the Reis itself, there was no way of being Me'er and Megala, the Neshama and the Chayis Elikir, which is Lubish and Leil. But that Onkem is Atifar Lekayah. That was not going into the Pratis Akayah, but according to this beer comes out, that Chassidus didn't come to Mechadish, a new Inyan of Eidos Hashem. The purpose is always the way it is Nigla the Reis, Abbas Hashem, Yiras Hashem, and Yishu Kaim Mitzvah, there's Simcha Shal Mitzvah, Chayis, in order, in the matzah, the way it is now, since there's such a strong Helen Behester, such a strong silik of the Neshama of the Guf, so the only way to have the regular Abbas Hashem and Yiras Hashem and Simcha Shal Mitzvah is only through Chassidus. So it's not that Chassidus is coming to bring some new Inyan, which didn't exist before the Avodas Hashem. Or that like the Pashas. The Muslim, when someone's is alphas and you have to wake him up. So you're using special methods that regularly you don't use to get to this person. But the purpose is not, these methods are not to bring up some new Inyan that the person didn't have earlier. We want the person to be regularly awake. In order for him to be awake when he's in a state of, when he's faint, you have to have special peiches, special emtzaim. To Meir than Evish when they say to Vasavas. According to this beer, Chassidus come to you, according to this beer, Chassidus didn't come to you Mechadash a new Indian Aveda Salados specifically. The same Inyona as before. But in order for a Yid today to have basic chayas in the mitzvah and Aveda and Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem, you need the Keich of Chassidus because the matziv, it's not only it's not the pshat just that the Eilu was the matziv of his alphos, Bizman al Hashem, and then we woke it up and now it's we're done. It means the Eilu was not matziv of a hell of a hester and the chayas of the key, and others when he gets to the Neshama is very distant from his book. In order to awaken him, in order to have a shaykhs in the Neshama, they have an come in to the keich, special keich of Chassidus. That's a beer which did. The second beer, that's what's in the Chassidus, which this is already a new chiddush in Avedas Adam. Someone answered this to a chassid that chassid who sha'es lefnim mishur sadim. Maamar Azal say from chassid avagav shemazik. And the Gemara there is that there's the nails. It's Ipernayim are mazik. Mazik is beginning as a creation movers. So a tzaddik is kaiva. Shaking a chassid is serfa. There's two pratim in the fact that a chassid is serfa. The first thing is that once you bury it, so you already took it with that. You don't have to be chayshish. That once you bury something under the earth and you cover it, you don't have to be chayshish. That maybe the stigma is going to be uncovered, and then the isha is going to walk in. So the where you have to bavarn that if someone else shouldn't get a hezek, so mashal Shel, you have to make sure to watch the Shel that it shouldn't be mazik. You only have to make a lock that the Ruach Matzuya is going to stay closed. To create a door that the Ruach Matzuya is going to stay closed. Either it might be a Ruach Sheinu Mitzvah, it might be a special, say a hurricane, it's a Yitzim Nakal wind. You don't have to be cheshish for that. It's enough to do the standard shmirah in order to prevent it. In the standard matzavim, there won't be a hezek. So there's that tzaddik, is kavna. He just buries the night. And the male and he said, Apidin, you don't have to be chayshish for a chashash rechaika. Maybe the stigma of this chfir is going to be this gala, and the ish is going to walk in. But shekin a chassid is chayshish even for a chashash rechaika. In order to avoid that another yid shouldn't get a hezek, he doesn't only do the standard shmirah, but he does a zasar shmirah to make sure that there shouldn't be any possibility b'chol, even a safik, a spek speaker, that someone should get a hezek. That's one thing that's the finish. Apidin, you don't have to be chayshish to chashash rechaika ma'ed that maybe it's going to be in his gala. The main thing that the Rebbe adds here is the Tosfos says there that the uftu is that serf and chassid afik shemazik later. That means that the Tosfos brings there that when a person is mechali, say something from his guf, it's greater a certain hezek to the person. Any chilik of the guf, if a person is mechali, it's greater a certain hezek. So first of all, apidin, mechali, you don't have to do a shmirah. Something that the tzipernayim might cause hezek. But apidin, you only have to do a shmirah that according to the standard matzavim, there won't be a hezek. But to do things shalek via ragel, to be cheshish that you're not mechuyev. Achas kam in the case where if you're going to do the sreifa, there's going to be a damage to you. So there's no chiyuv that a person should cause damage to himself in order to bavar and chashasha of someone else getting a hezek. The ufta Chassidus is that a person should fear zich, not only when they get bechla, that a person should fear zich, he should say zechavekli. A person should give away from himself for the sake of someone else. That he's ready to, not in order for him to get a te'alos, not that he's mismaser and obviously so in order for him to have the mitzvah, the schus of the mitzvah of Yisrael. Afakav shemazikli. This is the prima shor that a yid dedicates himself. And I'm speaking in the case of Abbas Yisrael, even in the case when they get Havetz Hashem, that a person dedicates himself to Torah, mitzvahs, and Kedusha, even being mevater on his own mitzvahs, even if he's not going to gain anything from it, forget it's going to be as. So this type of Aveda was not demanded before, as that sort of Aveda. And the Ufta of Chassidus is that a person should, his Imer Gemekait, to Abbas Yisrael, in this prat, in a Eifen that's, as a lake Zecharai, that there shouldn't be any chash to be getting a hezek to another yid, even on his expense, even at the expense of him getting a hezek. As the Flemish said it. Why is it allowed?
To hurt yourself.
You say, if it's hurting yourself, why is it allowed? But the probably might cause a hezek to someone else. And for him, it's the fact that another yid should get a hezek, which is going to be a much more severe hezek. The hezek of her going to now will be a much more severe hezek. So it's at the Flemish said, so he's not. Yeah. I'm going to say later what's the pnimis. It's just according to this beer. I mean, the etzim of Shiur said they existed before also. There's Muslim Chassid, but that's a Seder Aveda which is demanded of every Yid. That's the Uftuch Chassidus. Shiur said the etzim is not given for you. Because this Aveda of the Yid legt sich weg, not only according to the letter of the law, he does what he has to do, but legt sich weg for a zweiter Yid without any Cheshvanis, even not the Cheshvan of him, of his own Metzias. That's the Uftuch that Rebbe hat mir got aufgetan, that every Chassid is demanded this type of Seder Aveda. Shiur said that. Dritte Sache, I'm saying could be the Seder Advarim in the Inyona that Rebbe brings. The first beer is that there's no Chiddush in it. It's just today, in order to have the standard of it, you have to have Onkum and Tzakeh Miyuchim. The second thing is also a Zach which existed before. But the fact that every Yid is Memont from Yed Yid, as I start to say, that there's a Chiber to do what the Eibishter wants without being himself, without Cheshbainis of his Metzias. So that's an Uf that existed before, but that's the Smatz from Yed Yid, that's the Uf Tuchsitz. The dritter Bier, Malas HaChassidus Shakech Zativ and Nasim Kech Zulukim. This is where you know, Maamar Rabbeinu Azak and Ba'al Tanya Bashchamor. Kol Inen HaChassidus L'Shanis Teva Midas. Later, like the Shanis Midas of Ativim Elegam Teva Midas. Midas of Ativim is that a mensch is born. A person is born Adam, Ayer, Pera Adam. Mivaldik, the person is born that there's Midas Tivim. There's not Nishkin Gute Midas. The person is born not perfect. So a person is born with Midas Tivim, which are Midas Bilti Tevis. So here up in Nigla, there's a unit of Tikkun HaMidas. You have the ganze Chalakim in Torah, which speak about the Tikkun HaMidas, being a person should be Mevarer Midas late Tevis that he has. And Chassidus, the Madas Chassidus is not only to be Mesak and Midas Tivius, that means naturally born on Nishkin, not Midas Pesukam. But even the good Midas that a person has. A person has Midas HaChesed. He shouldn't give tzedakah just because he's by nature a kind person, but his Midas HaTzedakah should be because the Ratzon HaElyon is Mechayev to give tzedakah. So his Midas, his Avish shouldn't just be based on that's his nature, but his Avish should be based because Al Pi HaEmes there is an Avish Hashem. Because Al Pi Ratzon HaElyon there has to be Avish Hashem. So his whole mitzvah is the fact that he has Avish should be because that's a Kavan Al-Yenim. And in such a Eifin, his Teiches Ativim, the fact that he's Eivis Hashem, the fact that he has a Chesed towards another person, it's not only because that's his nature, because the Kavan Al-Yen is Machayev, Amzal Havan Avish Hashem. And the Ratzon HaElyon means that it should be Yiras Hashem. So then the Teiches Ativim are Teiches Elikim. Means the fact that he has Avish Hashem is because Al Pi Mitzad Ratzon HaElyon Mitzad Elikus, a person has to be in the Tnu of Ava. So that Ava is not just a natural Ava, it's an Ava which is Nevea Mitzad Ratzon HaElyon. So this type of Seder Aveda, that's the Ufto Chassidus. Chassidus is the Kayach for it, and Chassidus is the means Mitzad Pirkei Avos, let's say. So we don't have the Kayach. So we don't have the Kayach for a person that is natural, that his midas and his attitude should be Mitzad Ratzon HaElyon. That his attitude, the fact that he has Avos Hashem is because Al Pi HaEmes there's an Avos Hashem, because the Ratzon HaElyon is to have Avos Hashem. Mitzad Chalki HaTeresh and Zgala before Teres Chassidus, there isn't the ability to accomplish such a thing. A man can mevarer than a midah. Different eitzes that the Rambam brings. The person has a midah built in taiva, so if he's married himself to behave a certain way, so that's misakin the midah law. But in order that even the good things that a person has, is a person's mitzias should be built and should be affected mitzad, because that's the kavan al yenet happens. That's an uftof sense. That's different quality the kudir. The fair tezach, that's the so this beer also the etzim of beer amidis you have in Chalkei HaTorah before. The uftu is a whole different eifin in beer amidis. Another I'm saying the mile of the hisaf of this of the beer before is the beer before the etzim of Flimishos didn't exist before. The fact that it's demanded of everyone. This fourth Indian that's anayazah, but the etzim of beer amidis that existed earlier. But the beer amidis is such a eifin that's a chiddush, a mile of chassidus. The fourth beer, Teres HaChassidus Chitsha Shekol Echad Be'echad, is already a chiddush. It's a nice zach. That Gam Misha Ein L'Neshama Gveya, Gam Beis Yichas Atzim Yuchal HaChassidus. Means before his last Chassidus, a lukus is there's a person has a seichel of a nivra. A lukus is Shalei Be'erech, the grasp of a person, the seichel. Which Yidden had a shaykhis to Asagas a lukus, means before Gidei Chassidus, or he was a Yid that his neshama was rebellion. The chelik haruchim, his neshama was his galos. So in Mela, he had a elukusis begila. So he wasn't able to elukusis this regular sefer. He did chatchila. His neshama was begila. The Mela, the margish given Inyona of elukus. Or a yid which his neshama wasn't begila, aber sich mezachar given. Means he tzachazei mezachar given that he became a keli to his neshama. So anything can master elukus. Chassidus is chiddush is that even a yid that he does not have neshama, means neshama is not begila. regular Yid. And he's not a person that was Mizachir himself, that he became sensitive to Inyona of Elokus. A regular person. A regular Seichel Umidus, a regular Seichel Umidus of an Ibn. That even he could have a Sagas Elokus. That's a Chiddush that's not given free. There was Mefaled. Ka'yidei zeh, sheteres HaChassidus bira seinan shchelik HaSeich b'Torah, v'kirvasam al HaSeichel. The first thing is that, so we said this later, I don't know if it's called or not. It's a little bit, I'm saying. You feel comfortable doing this. Get something to but so the Rebbe brings here that what's the Ufto Chassidus that Chelik HaSeil means Inyona Chassidus is explaining Inyona Mevelakus. Inyona Mevelakus are be'etzem Inyona Shahayat, and Seichel is a concept, Musagim, which is Inyona of Gvul, Inyona of a Nivra. And it's a concept. Elokus is Pshittus. Elokus is higher than Tzir, higher than Tfisa. And Al Rebbe took Inyona of Seil, Inyona of Elokus, and that's a Mevar given in a Sprach of Seichel. He explained them as if they were concepts. He was mavish them in a realm of Inyonim and Seichel, as Mevar given. And not Stam Yustam Mevar them, but he's have Seichel, he could have a Seichel Naila Ma'id, Seichel Mufshet Ma'id. The Rebbe is Mevar them, Kirvasim al Seichel, with the Gmois and Mishalim, and Keres Tchunas HaNefesh. The Rebbe explained Inyonim Elokus with the Gmois and Mishalim of Pashat, the things that a person experiences. It's Tchunas HaAdam, the Keres HaNefesh. It's things that a person is, every person has Keres HaNefesh, and a person is able, the Rebbe brought that from the way the Keres Nevesh work, you can understand how Elokus works. Or he explained that Rebbe means a tiny in Chel Perek Beis. The Neshama is Chel Kamei Mal Mamish. Chel Kamei Mal Mamish, that the Neshama is Yuchad with Elokus. That's in Elokii. Elokus is bleakful, and the Neshama is Yuchad with Elokus is beyond any concept. The Rebbe brings a mashal. The Shaykhs of Ben Va'ad. That's a phenomenon in Elam Hazard. And with this mashal, he explains the Yuchad of the Neshama with the angel. So the Rebbe is taking an Inyan, which is Inyan Elokii, Inyan which is Be'etzim higher than it's not a concept. It's a Pshittus Elokus. And the Rebbe was mal b'shittus that's Mevar given through Musag, not just in Seichel. It's time they brought it into the aces of Hezber. But the Rebbe used Mishalim and Tchunis that a person experiences. The Meir can jeder einer verstehen. Sorry, jeder einer kann verstehen. So through the fact that he was Mevar Chassidus in Mishalim, through the Mois and Mishalim, Keres and Tchunis HaNefesh, nitnu efshars v'lechad v'echad l'hasik kam chelik zeh shebetei. Inyona v'Elokus. Leilek b'asichosh v'nafshi Elikis, v'gam b'asichosh v'nafshi Asichlis, ad b'asichosh v'nafshi Avachos. So the Rebbe explained Inyona Chassidus not only by using the Gmois from Seichel Eliki. The Rebbe was malbish the Inyona also used the Gmois from Pashat Melam Hazard, and used the Gmois from Nefesh Chiyunis. And that means the Gmois in Tanya when you get to the way the Nefesh, the way the Pashat, the Guf lives from the Nefesh. The Chayis, not the Chayis Eliki. Pashat Chayis Aguf. The way the Guf lives, the way the Keres Slavish and the Ivarim. Inyonim from the, so it's not Dafka someone that his world is a world of Elokus. Even someone that his world is Pashat Gashmis the Gevel, Rebbe Mevar when Inyona of Elokus in a language, through Musagim of Inyona of Elam Hazard. Can jeder einer verstehen Elokus?
Cheshvan was he brought in the Shalom?
Huh?
Cheshvan was that he brought in the
Not just
Shalom?
Mishalom. It's not just Mishalom, but we have no tfisa in such an Inyan, but it's not just a question of Hamtzah of Mishalom. But we're talking about Inyona, which are be'etzim. We have the famous mashal that you know the story of the Bisesef. Allah can the Masim no? The Bisesef was once harving very stark in a sugya. He had a shverikat, and he sat 2 weeks harving on the sugya until it was his galach in the svara. And then 2 weeks later, it was a while later, he was walking. He says, writes the story himself. He was walking, he was down, he was in a shtibul, and a melamed, or 2 kids were learning. He says, or doing the light were learning, and they were learning the same Gemara. He was learning 2 weeks the while before, and we say, Agavorcha within the learning, ain't it gefrekt the kasha that he asked. And the other guy thought for a couple of seconds, and he said right away the tennis that the Bisesef had to hurry on for 2 weeks. So he had a chlish sadas, so he'd have to hurry him 2 weeks. Maybe it's not zeicha to be that teresh b'meir. And the Malach told him in the Cholim that once he was mamshach this Indian Welt, so now this kind before the Bisesef of Ugaton, this svara, this svara, this halacha, this emes of Torah wasn't made in Welt. Didn't exist in the world. The Eir of this halacha was in a higher Eir. It wasn't nimshach in Elam Hazeh. A person can't understand something that doesn't exist in Elam Hazeh. We're living in this world. So a concept that wasn't nimshach in Elam Hazeh, we have no ability to understand. Through his yigiyah, he was mamshach, a inyan which was still the tafte size almos. We say the dugma. A person has in his nefesh, it's the nefesh itself, even a summa has the keach hariyah. But look, that's in the nefesh. The keach hariyah, the way it's in the nefesh is in a much more edeloi. It's a keach hayuli, or even higher than that. From that, then it should be this gala as a keach hariyah. They should be able to use mulubish in the ayin. That's a big seder shtashlis. From the keich ha'atzmi of the nefesh to be nimshach, there should be mulubish in the ayin. So you have the emes of Torah the way it is. If we're able to understand the svara, that's already a svara that exists within the Ilm HaSeichel. But you have the Inyan is still not Nizgal, it's still Beis Amos. It's still in a Hiuli, in the market I tell you. It wasn't Nimshach and Belti, it wasn't Nimshach and Seichel yet. So that, you need after the Beis Yisrael, but you can't harder than. Like a person is, as Ayigia, which a person is able to be Misageh and to be Mamshech, his Keich HaSeichel, the way it is from Etzem Nafsh. That's not a simple thing. And is able to have Gilui HaSeichel, Mitzat Keich HaSeichel, which is in the Etzem Nafsh. It's not Nishkin Pash Tazah. So the Messias was Megali here saying much more. The Inyona of Primus and Inyona of Said are Inyona of Holocaust, which are by definition Seichel is Gvul, Seichel is concepts. Not only the Gmais and Mishallah for the Tuchunis and Nevesh Adam, which is Bechlal, I'm saying the way the Metzias works in Elam Hazar, which is of course Gvul. But Seichel Bechlal is Tzir. And Holocaust is Pshitis, Holocaust is Ein Seif. The Altrebe should take Inyona of Holocaust and to transform them, they should be able to be explained in the Inyona of Seichel, that's a Chiddush Nifla. He took Inyona of Pshitis and he brought them down that they should be able to be Nizgala in a form of Seichel, or in a form of the Gemais of the Tchunis of Nefesh Adam. It's Nishkin Pash Tazah. That's a Chiddush. So this is all, I mean, we can minus on these 4 Biurim, but we're going to go back to these 4 Biurim because the Rebbe is later going to explain how the Hemshech HaInyan, how these 4 Biurim, Pizeh Helmet Tzatah with the Etzem Ochsitz. But here the Rebbe just brings 4 general Inyona was very gebracht. All Biurim were about the Rabbein, or B'mayna Ta'ashayla, or the Altrebe L'Tchilat Kazak. Inyona that they explained what's the ufta, what was the Inyan, what was the point of this Gal Sachsitz. Wasn't being about ufta in the Avedis Hashem of a person. So one ifin is, we don't want to do anything new in Avedis Hashem. Just be Me'er Meis Alphas. Today, it's a Leged Lahelam Ba'heshta, in order for you to have the basic Chayes, be a Smantzach, of Nigla there is, you need to have the Keach of Chassidus. That's the first beer. The Erev is Alphas. The second beer is a higher eifin of Iber Gebekai Telukus, without being mischashet with your good, and not being mischashet just to do things according to the Esmantzach Mitzat Shechanarach, but the Iber Gebekai to mitzvah should be without Cheshbainis. That's the Frimisher Sadim. And that means the Frimisher means without Cheshbainis and how far you're gonna do the mitzvah and even if it's gonna cost you something. But a Yid dedicates himself without Cheshbainis for the sake of Ratzon Elohim. The third idea is that his midas and his av and his yiddish should be mitzad and built mitzad kavan, mitzad Ratzon Elohim, and not just because his nature is that of Hashem. And the third thing is Inyona of Elukus, the Mamashber Zan and Naif, and again, Zal Ken Versteh Elukus. Kol Echad Yuchol Asik Elukus. These are Inyona Nayazak, which factions das nicht gewähnt, and Chassidus hat aufgetan these Inyona. That makes us beard in the fear pratim or
how is Dalit greater than Gimel?
It's not a question of grade. Dalit is a new Indian. That's an Indian of Bir Hamidis existed earlier. It's just another Hisaf and Bir Hamidis. It's saying this is a new Indian. The Chassidus told that was Pshitis, was Elukus. Elukus was an Indian of higher than Seichel, higher than Tfisa. Elukus is an Indian of Pshitis. To take Inyona of Elukus and to be malbish them, to transform them, they should be able to be expressed through Inyona of Seichel. That's a nice act, which given free. It's a new Indian. It's not just something which already Midas already existed before that a person should his midas and his tchunas, his attitudes should be up in Torah. Here it's a step further. Not only the not good attitudes should be erased, but even the good things that he has should be because that's what the Eivisha wants. That's the rationality. Here it's a whole new Indian. You change. The Rebbe has a lashon in the Sikh of the Chiduk Ches, of Shavuos, that it says that the Baal Shem Tov was Megal it's a medrash too, but the Rebbe says Pirush Baal Shem Tov Zal that Mitzias that it's not the Pshat Eivish created the world once, and from then the world exists, but the world is constantly dependent on the fact that Eivish says Yirake. Ilu if this Varavai is Mistalik Rega Echad, so very Eis Welt. The fact that the world exists is because the Varavai is continuously being Mekayim Yisrael B'chol Lega V'Lega. So the Rebbe says there that before the Ufta the Baal Shem Tov, it's not only that he taught this idea. The You could have said this idea before. Before the Baal Shem Tov changed, before the Baal Shem Tov, the atheist of the Dvar Havai, which was Mahavid the Nibra, was in a Eifen that it wasn't able to be Nirgash in the Nibra. That it should be Nirgash that the Nibra is dependent fully on the atheists. The atheists were in Azar Eifen that there wasn't able to be Nirgash the atheists in the Nibra. The Nibra was, the atheists were Behelim. And there was no way for a Nibra to be able to sense his dependence on the atheists. It's a get the atheists. And so that the Herge should be that the world is only is la chula teitzah. The Eibush saying here the was such a concept wasn't able to be this gadol before the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov changed that the atheists on Zayin Mer Begillah. There's that Arez gebracht the atheists that they should be in a way that the Nibra should be able to feel his shaykhs to the atheists. Before then, the atheists were a definition muvdal. So we think of it, it's a concept. Why couldn't they say the concept before? It was that concept didn't exist. The concept is that the Nibra is always dependent on the Aces of the Varavai. There was no link before the Baal Shem Tov to the Aces of the Varavai. The Aces between the Nibra and the Dibra Laki. Dibra Laki was in a different realm than the Aces. It was the Hell Muchal. Remember, that was Lashon, was in a very strong hell. There was no way for the Nibra to be able to feel how deep his contact to the Aces are. And the Baal Shem Tov, the fact that he said at Torah, the Nibra was told in the Varavai, that was a Titzah. What's the Ukatan? He was Mishana, the way the Aces are Mulubish in the Nibra. That the Aces are more bizgalus in the Nibra. So that's changing a Keach of the key. Not the Sarzai. Like the Chassidus brings the marshal of the beginning of the Gani that there was tzaddikim that they were mamshach l'kos from one rikeh to another rikeh. Many tzaddikim in the world who did nice things, great things. But the change, that the Shechina should go from one target to the next target, to have an effect on the Shechina, that's nicht gepasht the Zach. We need Shina tzaddikim that they could have machen a Shina that the Shechina should be nimshach to a lower level. So the Rebbe is doing uftu. It's not Stamazet uftu in the Einik of Avedas Hashem. Till the Alter Rebbe in Inyona V'Lakus were pshittas, were inside, and to be mamshich in Inyona V'Lakus, they should be to be mamshich in Seder. That's an ayis achingan. Yeah, there's different Shiurim. What's Dafka? These four Inyona. What's the Seder?
Is that like why is that for other Shiurims that they use?
That says Shiurim b'Rabban. That says Shiurim b'Rabban. Well, in this Kuntres, there brings these four Shiurim. Also later, the Rebbe goes back in the artist to explain the enek of these four Shiurim. I think Sidoti is on Geshuva like that. What's that for these four?
Do you explain Aranai?
Huh?
Do you explain Aranai?
It's not Chazak. Anything else? That was the Gale that you say Chassidus brings a marshal. They don't saw R9. You should focus on this part. It's not okay. We focus on who? Focus on. They don't look at Sana R9. Huh? I'm in Shalom Amud 185. She said, "In the session, Chadus is Chassidus Shabikera Shavot and Asigus Sinam Shalomai leNasim Akeiches Olukus Inshallah." To see what it says over there about the Rebbe brought many times that when you say a marshal, Chassidus brings a marshal for them. It brings from here in the Pnim that Teres Chassidus Bira Sinam Shalomai Kasesh B'Teira. What does it mean you say? Regularly, the person says a marshal. So you have the Inyona that you're explaining. And then you're using different phenomena to explain the Inyona that you're saying. Not that the marshal is nimshach from the nimshach. There's a word I think the Rav Shel brings that he heard from the Alter Rebbe. In order to say a marshal, you have to know the nimshal k'cheshu b'mkayim. You have to know the nimshal the way it is in the pshitus, the Inyona the way it is lamitaseh. You have to understand the marshal the way it is in Elam Hazeh. And you have to know the whole Seder HaShtashlos from the marshal, from the nimshal to the marshal. That means that the Chassidus' masber is that the fact that there's a marshal mayim is nimshach l'gavei l'nam. Using it as an example for midas hachesed. That's not stam a marshal. Midas hachesed atzilis was nimshach and mishtalshel that his inyan should be able to be expressed in this gashmistic phenomena of mayim being yerdim l'gavei l'nam. Mayim being yerdim l'gavei l'nam is midas hachesed atzilis the way it's nimshach and the way it's expressed in a physical phenomenon. So the marshal is nimshach from the nimshach. So the fact that you have keiches, the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya that the nevesh has esser keiches, the beginning of Perigim was Alter Rebbe said that kol nevesh kol neser b'chinas, kineged esser sfilish nishtal shelo behen. So it's not something that brings a marshal from this unit to another unit. The person's esser keiches are nimshach and nishtal shel mitzad the fact that they should gewollt that there should be yediyas olukos. So the esser keiches shel amayla or nimshach and nishtal shel till to be expressed in esser keiches of a nevesh. So it's not stam as a person's you're using the mashal to understand the musik and elukus. And then that a person comes to the realization and comes to the heritage that the whole mitzvah that his nevesh works in such a way is all for the sake of the having Gidiyas elukus. The fact that the Eibushat gemacht, that the Seichel is made with midis, with all the Inyanim, that's all in order for a Yid to have a tfisa b'asagim elukus. The fire is eigentlich noch gemacht die ganze Sache. Das ist schön, das ist noch ein. That a person's mitzvah is not just the mitzvah of a nivra. A person's mitzvah is also the hemshach elukus. The part of the Shalas Senes Miteva V'Deisav is, you say, there's a mitzvah to have Avos Hashem. So, it's my attitude towards the Eibush. A person has a regesh of kiruv. But my Avos should be because the Lukus is Mechayiv Tava. A person should be programmed based on Ratzon. If a person has Avos Hashem because the Kavanah Al Yed is Rukat Avos Hashem, that Avos Hashem is the Ava of a Nivra or it's an Ava which is a result of a mitzvah. The same way you understand, use the Pashta Mashal. A person is being Netilas Lulav. So that is just a physical, it's a Nivra's act. Or this is rationality. This is it's a meiser which is body to rationality. You're doing a helikazah. So al derech zeh yid chadav yikra avos Hashem is by nature you're a person. You say that what's without l'sham is a person has by nature there's people which are bali gvura. Let's say people that are bali av means that they're nimshach to the good of things. They're not focused so much on the chelika on the yira. They're focused more on what's good. And they come to this bonus and the Eibush is the emes of Torah. Which that's better. The Eibush is the emes of Torah. The mele they're gonna have Hashem. So then their ava is their natural ava. They channeled it towards none of Holocaust. Instead of having a type of Silam Hazve, so they have Avos Hashem. Here we're saying that the fact that he has Avos Hashem is because there's a mitzvah in Torah of Avos Hashem. And the fact that he'll be a priest and have Yerushalayim too. His kav is not going to be mobile to a kav of Av or a kav of Yira. If his Av is mitzvah, because by nature he's someone that looks for the good things which exist. The only thing is that it's benefit that the Eibush is the emes of Torah, and therefore he has Avos Hashem. Then his Av is the nifra, it's his Av. It's his natural Tavadika. Mashiach Chassidus month is that a person's mitzvah, his attitude should be based on what the rationality is. There's a lot of Avos Hashem because of pure emes. He's bein in the lukus, and mitzvah that emes is mechuyev that a person should have Avos Hashem. So then his ava is also Inyona laki. It's not just the regesh of the nibur. Yes, the kama pratim. Yeah, but this is not the main point right now. I like here from the Gofin. When we'll finish the Indian, the Rebbe goes back to these Yiurim, can we leave these moving to Pasha to go come on. The Rebbe says that it's verstandig, once the Pasha sagt, like the Rebbe is going to bring the Hemshe from the Maamar the Rebbe was saying. HaChassidus HaChassidus in the Kuda Achas, she'einu merkevus in Pratim Shel. The Rebbe is going to touch up what he means that it's in Kuda Achas, which is not comprised of Kama Pratim. So that's the Rebbe, the Pshat that the Bashan of the Galak Materis HaChassidus. And he had 4 separate functions. Why is the Galak Materis HaChassidus? Meir from the Alphas, also the Fnei Mishur Sadin, also B'mam Shchalukus and Seichel, and also at the Chveis L'Shanis Teva V'Deisav. Stam 4 separate things. There's an Indian behind it. And the word that they're saying here is the Kuda Achas, which is not yet sometimes one you can find from all. Let's say from all these 4 things, we'll find one Kuda that's cradled these 4. We'll find that. So this is a point. We'll find the Kava Ma'achet between these 4 things. It's not either. It's the Kuda Achas which is not built from Pratim Shel. It's not built from Pratis Dekeinan. That's going to touch up what it means. Kiva Shekol Ma'ash Never B'Yuram Hanal. Mind the shame. They're verschiedene Sachen. They're all different. Each one is a different thing. Hari Muchrach Shemaylas Elu Einen Magdiris Umematzis is Muhutzer Shteres Achsidus. Muhutzer Shteres Achsidus in the Kuda Atzmus Hamufshetes Minyanim Pratim. You have a mashal. This is something which is not easy to understand, but you have let's say a cloud of pratim. You have something which is a person has seichel u'midas, and you have the nefesh, the way he's a mocker for seichel u'midas. That's not a kuda aspect. You have something which he's not seichel u'midas, but he's the cloud which is nice in both of these 2 things. He's an akuda which is murka from pratim. I'm saying most of Chassidus is an akuda of pshittis which has no shaykhis to Inyona pratim. And the good of inside, which has no shaykhis to pratis the Inyona. You say you can have a cloud. You say in Nigla B'Pashtus, you have what's the klal of what mitzvah sukkah is, and then how there's the klal there should be a dir asari, let's say, and then in order for it to be a dir asari, there's different dinim how the schach have to be, different dinim how the walls have to be. So there's a nekuda klal. It's the klal that there should be a dir asari. As a result of that, kum verschiedene prat. You can have this is a certain general point, and in order to get to this general point, you have a couple of pratis that you think. Rebbe is saying that Mahuz HaChassidus, of course, we're going to see further, is an Inyan, which is an Nekuda Atzim, which is mufshit from Inyona. It's an Azasert Inyan, which has no shaykhis to specific things, which Inyona of Tzir. Because Rebbe brings the Hemshah that the Rebbe Rashab says HaChassidus is Amshara from Ein Sof. If it's Amshara from Ein Sof is not defined that it's a Klal to Pratim. A Klal to Pratim is also an Inyan Pratim. See, there's a certain specific function. And this specific function is it's misparted in Kama Pratim. Chassidus is Amshara from Ein Sof. So Mahuz HaChassidus is a Nekuda Atzis, which is mufshit from defined Inyona. All the Inyona we spoke about before are all defined Inyona. The Masber Lukus and Seichel, that's a defined Inyan. There's a Lukus, there's Invas for Ha'ef and Enter the Lukus. The Masber, Inyona of Seid and Ha'ef and of Seichel. The Trim Shozdin is there's a certain, they say Tchum and Avez Hashem. There's an Inyan of a person serving Hashem al Pidir, serving Hashem al Tchum. It's not an Inyan of Ein Seif. This is the Nekudas HaChassidus is move on that the Nekudas HaChassidus is a Nekuda Atzis, which is mufshit from Inyona Prat. That was going to say. So if we Kodas at the Rabbeim spoke Kama B'Yur River, said the Nekudas HaChassidus is an Inyan Atzim. Inyan Atzim means something which is beyond definition. That's what we say Inyan Atzim. Inyan of Pshittis. Not a defined pratis like a thing. Inyan which is beyond a specific tziyur, which is going to touch out. If we say that Chassidus is the Pel that Rabbeim brought up for B'Yurim, so a master given what's the Inyan of Chassidus. So we can sagen that as nicht das. So there is Elvitzad Nikodas HaAtzmis Nimtzois Umistafis Yemena Malusana. That's a different part. You have two ways of one thing being a marker to something else, which there is going to be a fire to little bit later. But you have one evidence say that say a person has you have a Keich HaDibur. From a Keich HaDibur, Kuntres Dibur. You have the Keich HaSeichos Mechadish Svardas. So the marker, the reason why this is a marker for that is because this thing expresses that or relates to that. That's one ifin of a marker. Then you have another ifin is because the Inyan is ain't safe, because the Inyan is unlimited, so anything could come from it. Not because these things express it or relate to the nature of the marker. Because the marker has no definition at all, the melee, once you have the marker and it's bleak full, anything can come from it. That's what we're saying. It says, Chassidus and Nekuda Atzim is mufshit from Inyona Prat. It's not if it's a cloud that you could say that it's not four things randomly mixed around four biyurim. But you can't even find it that if you're just going to find the Nekuda which is cradle these four. That's also not what Chassidus is. It's Mufnuk Pasha, like the Rebbe is going to bring the that's the Nekuda which is mufshit from Inyona Prat. I have solution Inyona Prat, so we have the Rabbeim Gelet, that it's Mair Yidin from his Alphas, and all these things. Once you have a Nekuda Atzmis, b'meili you have all these things. That's Mitzad Nekudas Atzmis Nimtzois Umistafis Yemena Malusana. Means once you have a Nekuda which is not multiple in Pratim, which is Ein Seif, which is big full, b'meili you have many qualities. Not because these qualities you say are be'erech to the marker. Because the marker is unlimited, b'meili all good things will come. That's the Nekuda Rebbe saying. He says Nekuda that he starts going through the Prat Yadvar. So the Nekuda Atzmis Shel HaChassidus, the Mahuz HaChassidus, it's going to do the Ilba Maamar. We say the Maamar. This is the Fabrik. This is the Sikh from the Fabrik. This is the Chavod. So the Rebbe said in the Maamar of which is Yusuf on Kodem Shalom Ein. So there the Rebbe says that Chassidus is Amshachas Chodesh from the Bechina of Pnimius HaKesed. It's Klolos HaTorah. It is Nimshach from Chitzenius HaKesed, lower darkness. Chassidus is a new Amshachas Chodesh from the dark of Pnimius HaKesed. As I start as I give is a Kemelish given in Bel. Pnimius HaKesed existed. But Pnimius HaKesed has no shaykhs to Eloms. It ain't safe. We're living in a world of Elam Hazard. And Al Trebat Mamshi ben Chodesh from Pnimius HaKesed. Pnimius HaKesed. Ulamayli is with the Pnimius HaKesed Guf Amshachas Pnimius Atik Mamish Pnimius Ein Sof Shnim Seberadlo. The point is not a diagram of Lakus which is any mocker, any relation to Mitzias. You have that diagram of Lakus became already a mocker for Mitzias. You say Chitzenius HaKesed is, even though Chitzenius HaKesed is still not Mitzuyur and Chacham V'Chesed, but it relates to Chabad, relates to Chacham V'Chesed. Mashiach Pnimius HaKesed, Pnimius Atik Mamish is Ein Sof the way he is in his own Ein Seifus, the way he is in his Pshittis. So Eid Bezot HaChassidus Amshar is a Chodesh from Pchinas Ein Sof HaAmiti, from a Lakus is beyond any Shaykhs to Mitzias, from Pnimius Ein Sof, from Pnimius HaAtzmos. So da steht dort, so Meile ist Muchrach, Now there is from this part that the Rebbe Rashab says, versteht man, hat gesagt in the paragraph earlier that Chassidus is a nekuda which is mufshit from Prat. If what I'm saying is, if you speak of Mashal Chassidus, it says, and I versteht I'm saying let's use this language of Chitzedes HaKeser. So there's Chabad, there's Atzilus, Shteder Shlashlos, Chacham Bina Das Chazik word Teferes, which is Nonam of Tzir. Chacham is a certain Indian Prati, Bina Das. Chitzedes HaKeser is mufshit from Tzir, but he's a mocker for Tzir. So he's a nekuda which is not mufshit from Prat. He's a nekuda which is a klal for Prat. He's the source of the Prat, but he's the source of the Prat. So then you could say that if Chassidus would be Amshach from a Darga, well, of course, there's already a mocker for Tzir, for a mocker for Chabad Chagas, Kevin Zagin, that there's Kama L'Kama Inyona, in Midas Chassidus Hatub Ketan, in Seichel Chassidus Hatub Ketan, in Maisa Chassidus Hatub Ketan, a whole world Chassidus Hatub Ketan, from Maisa until Chabad. So what is it? It's some random things, Mair from his alphas, and this and that. There's one nekuda which is a marker for all these four things.
What was that nekuda be?
What's the nekuda of Chitzedes HaKeser? There's the nefesh, the way is a marker for the Eser Keches. It's beautiful that. But I'm saying the point is there's the nefesh, the way is a marker for the Eser Keches, the way is a marker for Seichel HaMidas. That's the Chitzenius nefesh. Or of course there's Chitzenius HaKeser, which is a marker for Eser Sfiris. What it says, the Rebbe Rashab says. That Chizam from Primus HaKeser, from Yitzhak, the Yitzhak is mufshit from Shaykhis the Tzir, Shaykhis the Pratim. That means Mekanish is not that Chassidus is not a klal for Pratim. This Indian, there's Seichel, there's Midas. Chassidus is not about Seichel and Midas. It's Ein Seif. Once you have Ein Seif, so everything's going to be Nis'al. If you have Ein Seif is not limited that he's only going to cause, they say improvements in the realm of Ein Seif. If you have Ein Seif, everything's going to be affected. Everything's going to be Nis'al. That means mitzad nekudas ha'atzmis hapish and alts. So this few paragraphs, not the Pasib Beis and Sif, the end of Sif Gimel, I think it's important things. I'm saying, so I asked Alpha from this. I'm saying certainly this is the Rebbe's Masber. What the Inyona, even before the Hemshech HaKodesh. The Rebbe explains what it means Navei the Sa'adim is Inyona. What it means, the Rebbe teaches up. These are Aces in Kabbalah. What it means Navei the Sa'adim, the Chassidus is Uftu is Hamshach is Ein Sof. What does that mean? Not practically, also practically speaking, but what does that mean? How does that look? A Yid which is connected to the Primus HaKeser, and a Yid which is not connected to the Primus HaKeser. Let's get the Rebbe uptouch in the Kuntres. Here the Rebbe is saying, but the Rebbe touches here when you get to what Chassidus is, in the Hemshech, a very strong basically for we're in touch with the Inyona, the Rebbe says. But that's an Inzah. It says, Inyona Za'atz, Mishanemer Ba'mayim, that Inyona Lehi, which is said in the Maamar that Chassidus Zamshach Chadash, from Primus HaKeser, from Yitzhak, Machriach, Shakol HaMayla Shebechsidus HaMvo'olis M'kei V'Shekel. All the Maylas, V'shid the Maylas. Really thinks this is this uftu, and Chassidus takes away a Mishayeshes, and takes away a person being different things that Chassidus virtues and different miles of Chassidus Pashit helps when they get Avedis Adam. But nicht in dem besteht what Chassidus is. And that's not the Inyan of what Chassidus will come uftu. Nicht in dem besteht in Inyan. Hinak is status. Status means once you have this, everything becomes different. You see, if someone got his eyesight. Once he got it, he's able to see. So maybe he's not going to trip. Maybe he's not going to say, "What does it mean getting eyesight?" We gave you instead of using a stick to walk around, we gave you your eyesight. Giving your eyesight is a whole different. A person got his keicharia. But mainly he's not going to trip. But mainly he's going to start to see colors, and mainly things are going to be different. But nicht in dem besteht what the hus. It's not a good motion. The keicharia is a cloud of prad. Someone's going to say, "Avad getting the keicharia is not." It's a cloud. It means once you get Keicharia, you're not going to trip anywhere. But the fact that I'm not going to trip is one of the virtues and one of the pratim which are mistayah from the cloud. He was saying that a Chassidus and a Kuntres which has something to do with pratim. Connects a Yid to the Eibishter, to the Ein Seif, beyond any tziyur, to the Eibishter himself. Once a Yid's connected to the Eibishter himself, every aspect of his life is going to be different. Every aspect of his life is going to be the tachlis of Yid. But the fact that this aspect of his life was changed, is that going to express the fact that the Eibishter himself is beyond all these things? So the fact this mile is not going to express even a prat, even a ha'ara of what Chassidus is. Once you have Chassidus, the male is alt verdandish. That's the pshat that it's mistake. So in his eyes, this in it, it's not like they're saying we don't have to go look for other biur. So lamer suchen andere minds. Das besteht da in der Maamar is when achriach as kol mas from the verse because she in a stafos mit das ratas. See, not side benefits. Once a person took the thing and feels good, the everything's going to be different. Kima HaChassidus yam shos b'chinas ein sof. Harimubnu pasha that should ein sof hu atzmi. You're not going to say that ein sof is here in order. Etzem, what do we want? We want to wake up by Yitrim Misalfos. We want to take care of Allah V'Svestayim. There's a world of Nisyanis. We want to take care of the Nisyanis. Or there's a Bevila, each should have a Sag and Holocaust. In order for you to have a Sag and Holocaust, we have to use the energy from Ein Sof. So then we use the Ein Sof in order not to, it's not shaykh to say that. You can't use Ein Sof for a Prat. Man nutzt nicht as Legabe Ein Sof, the Prat is Kolochshin. Before Legabe people has not pieces of money. So it's not shaykh to say that the main thing we were icing was a certain Indian Prat. In order to get to that, we have to use the Keich of Ein Sof. This is a Hebrechein. It's a Kenner sagen das. Die Kirche Chazin am Schluss, and moving a bunch of Ein Sof, who atzmi? The Nekud is Ein Sof. But Kol Shari and Elim Elim Tzad Musabavim. It's not shaykh to say that you're using Ein Sof for any. Legabe Ein Sof, these Pratim don't exist. They have no value, Legabe Ein Sof. Because Gul Legabe Bli was not Tfisa Smoking. So you can't, once, if you're in touch with Ein Sof, so there's no Tfisa Smoking to be Mamshach Holocaust and to deal with Seichel. So Eba say, Vi Idos, that mitzad Ein Sof, Holocaust Nimshik Warren Seichel. Once you have Ein Sof, so there's no limits. If there's no limits, so Holocaust could also come in Seichel. But you can't say that the function was Holocaust and Seichel. And in order to bring that, we use Ein Sof. That's Kenner Zayin. Not mitzad the chshivus of understanding of the course, mitzad being memal the kavanas atzmi. It's not chazan. But the Rebbe is saying we're saying over here, man. A person could live in this world and he has no regular. He has no understanding of the Holocaust. Chassidus brought a Meir that a person, a nibber living in this world should have a sag of the Holocaust. Right? You're going to the kavanah. That's already mitzad itself. Saying this in itself, a sag of Holocaust, or serving the Eibush with arak balls. The film Yeshua said it. It's not in the flame. You say in order to have this, we have to use itself. If you're in touch with Ein Sof, so all these pratim are koloshim. Then the Indian is Ein Sof. The Allah Zachen, they're a mistaya from this Indian. We're going to see this is we're beginning. We get Zen.
Why was Chassidus brought down at a certain time? The scar at a certain time.
The Rebbe is going to explain this also. You're asking nothing to do with the Rebbe saying here. You're asking no. If it's an important Indian, so why was the Nimshach Lumei Shavim?
No. If it's,
why was Matan Torah a certain time?
No. If it's Indian attribute, which means that which means that it can't be brought down for a specific reason, but it's a reason for itself. And why was it brought down at a certain time in history? If it's a specific Indian, and then you say it's brought down for a certain Indian, like you bring early ones in this conference. If it's an Indian attribute, you can't say that.
We're going to speak Behemshik, that the Etzim, it's das Chos is Gas and Mashiach. And say the same thing when you get Matan Torah. Matan Torah is also not there in order for Tikkun Ayla. Matan Torah is also from an Ayla. Yeah, well, understand, but there is going to be a Masber a little bit later. Remember this prat that you're saying. Saying, according to the Beer of his Alphas, you understand why the Baal Shem Tov came.
Yeah.
There was a matzvah with this Alphas. Shit, the Rebbe is saying, I don't do it this Alphas. But it could have was the Imam Shech in Sof.
It can't be.
This is this thread. I don't know how much time we have, but we'll start the Sigma, yeah? So there was like this. What's the saying? Gebrach steht Kama Biyurim in the Rabbein brought his Biyurim. What's the Inyona Chassidus? Take zu ufta verschiedene Sachen. Meir take care of the Sienis, his Alphas, Helom is Vestegen, verschiedene Sachen. The Rebbe says you can't say that Chassidus was state. What is Chassidus? A way to come to these four things. Why? Because it says in the Maamar, Chassidus ain't safe. And Ein Sof is not about taking care of problem. Ein Sof is the Eibush himself. And the guy being said there's no fitness smoking the problem. So the Rebbe says, the Rebbe is going to ask here, the same thing he's saying to get to Chassidus, ganz Torah is miyuch with Ein Sof. And it doesn't stop us from saying, what's the purpose of Shalom? What's the purpose of Pirkei? To show a person midas u'musar b'nei adam. What's the function of the Mishnayos? To show a person how to be a good person, or a kayetzah. I say, I tell us miyuch with Ein Sof. It's nicht gestillet. So say the same thing when you get to Chassidus. Some shachar from Ein Sof. But what's the function of the samshachar? These Inyona pratim. The Rebbe is going to say that Legabe Nikli you can say, Legabe Chassidus you can't say. This is what the Rebbe says here. This is nicht geposhed the point. The Rebbe is up in Siddur. So this Amar Le'il when you get to Teres Chassidus, who b'chlol is b'chol chal keter. It's both the product. Say that mitzad echad and muhus HaChassidus is Ein Sof. Mitzad sheni, once you have Ein Sof, you have everything. They don't say it in a tansis. Once you have an Akudah Hashem, which is Ein Sof, so you have an unlimited, you have a Keich Eliki of the Eibusher himself. Once you have the Eibusher himself, every area in your life is going to be the same. The Chlolos, this is true when they get to Kol Chalkat. On one hand, we find that Tere Kilele is Kol HaMini Shleimus and Umaylash and Mitzayim Mitzayim Zbayla. Punkt is, said we get to Chassidus that every Tchum and Avedis Hashem, there are about 4 dogmas. But the point is, 4 is essential Inyonim in a person's in B'nefesh Adam, which are all affected through Chassidus. And in a very big effect. Flimish Hashem, the Gabi Din, is a massive uftu. Well, there's a Chassidus, has Tagas Chassidus, it's a massive uftu. So, there's when we get to Nigla Deiraisa, the Torah is Kailo, all the certain Shleimus that you haven't felt is included in Torah. Person wants to live a good, the best diet is kashrus. In the day is the best mileage, not that achil is an idol. But every tchum which exists in the world, in Torah is of them in the higher state. And anything which is not in Torah, it's a similar, it's not a mileage. It's not a Indian. As the kol shlemus masim says there. And the chlok is bechlal Inyona elam katim hu adam l'mayla sameichin v'al samitus. Yeah, there's a basic call. When Hoges Musris and Midas Tavis, we're speaking about morals, ethics. So Hari HaMishpatim b'darki ha'musar sheb'Torah Misagas Aves v'chadelim taklas ha'tei v'ayis. The best way of life and the truest way of life. Taklas ha'tei v'ayis. The kol shittas ha'musar sheboda b'nei adam aliv. That means imuravis in tei v'la emes v'shem. Also. But you have an eifin that someone's machadish. People have shittas of how civilization should live, or how should be moral. Yeah, mentioned how a person has to live. What has to be his attitude towards other people. What has to be his attitude towards other races. Different days, different shittas. You have people that their shittas are their shittas based on their own pleas. So Nishman Sabbath, that's going to be he's saying for his agenda, so he believes kafka. There's even someone with seichel anushi, an honest person which thought and is given, a mind given. What's the most correct way for a person to live? What's the most correct way for a person to have midas and musar b'nei adam? So the Rebbe says, if it's seichel anushi, even if he didn't mean Inyona of pnius, if it's seichel anushi, it's mu'ordiv, every midah teiv is mu'ordiv with ra, and every emes has sheker. There's no svara which is a teitza of seichel anushi, which is kula emes. There's a nekuda of sheker. I don't know what people listen to different Reiderai in Seichel Anushi, different Inyonim. There's every single svara in Seichel Anushi, which is any shit, any hashkafas eilam in Seichel Anushi is mu'urav tein fera emes v'sheker. It's can't understand better now. And Mashinge the Tarchi Amusa Shebetera is ultimate good and ultimate true.
People not have an ability to reach others by themselves.
But there is Seichel Anushi itself can't reach that. That's up to them. Every a seichel and the mitzias ha'adam by definition his mitzias is mixed with emes v'sheker. There's no tapas emes. Torah is tapas emes, but seichel anushi itself kenish tzugam is tapas emes. Huh? But the Rebbe is very interesting. In Arda 17, this the Rebbe is like this. Kam Shloime is he called Inyona elam bar lekim lasis l'sakim. So the world is created in a way that nothing is complete. It's not the world. The world, the Metzias Adam, the Seichel of Anivra, nothing was created in a perfect way. Because everything was lasted. The Apiteri should be second. But the Metzias of the world itself, that always brings that Chsadra, Elam Chsadra Daima, that Ruach, every single thing in the world is created imperfect. So Seichel Adam is imperfect either. So there cannot be any shitta which is based on Seichel Adam that should be fully true, because everything started tikkun. So the seichel kenish their gain to a full, cohesive derech in every prat in the seder achayim. There's basically a nishki pash devar. Everything is created with chisar. So according to this part, you can have let's say a person's mechadash hashita. So there's going to be true sides of it, and then there'll be a false aspect of what he's saying. But there'll be someone's going to say about shita. They have to be mechazik the workers over the middle class over the upper class. So there's going to be so one you can say there's going to be a chelika emes. Because they're the workers, they're the ones where's the bulk of society. I don't know. I'm just saying but there's going to be also an aspect of sheker. The aspect of sheker that whatever. There'll be an aspect of sheker. They're saying more. There's a mixture. The aim tayv b'leira means every aspect of tayv brings with itself ra. Let's say people, there's I don't know exactly. Let's say there's a shitta that what's the best way? Nothing to do with tayv, but to be present. I don't know, different things. So the tayv brings with it ra. I don't want to start using the voice now from the because maybe it'll prove you wrong. But the nekuda is that the tayv itself happens zikra. It's not the pshat that there's a good aspect, and then on the side, another thing that they say is bad. The tayv also brings with itself aim tayv b'lei behavior. Yeah, that's the state.
Is that adding on the order?
It sounds like the order means that you have a svara, which this svara is called a good aspect and a negative aspect. But that the good carries itself a negative trait. Every good has a negative ingredient.
What was before that?
Huh?
Lifnei
Ached, the Ra wasn't ordered to the tayv. So I mentioned Ket Mechadus and a Shitta, let's say. Then the Shitta is going to be, there's going to be an aspect of tayv there. And there's going to be an aspect of Ra, but the Ra won't affect the tayv. It means, let's say you're being madgish chveis the mile of the workers. So you're gonna let's say ignore the grace machers there. There'll be a chisar, you're gonna ignore the machers. Here we're saying that even the good that you're getting, that you're pumping them, that itself is gonna be a chisar. It's not gonna be good for them. Every aspect of tayv is gonna have that. Not only that there's tayv and now that this shitta is gonna say this shitta is. Let's say you use this the Gemara of a shitta that Inyona is lachazik the middle class of people. So you have one ifin is that there's going to be a nekuda satayv, and you have a nekuda sarah that someone else is going to be affected. You have a nekuda sarah that they themselves will be affected, but not mitzad the chelik hatayv which is in this shit. You have ein tayv leira, the tayv that itself is going to bring the ra. Huh?
Like by Napoleon?
But there that's for sure. I'm saying every shit that should go
I'm saying like to by the extreme.
The freedom itself can cause destruction because people have no limits. So it's not just that the freedom caused a chveis that it wasn't good for the kings, or the freedom was this itself was the force of destruction. But the Rebbe Kovetz is that it's Yegevene perish. Good.
So Sarah has two stuff.
This
now.
you'll figure out yourself exactly This is the truth. Exactly what the things are. The shit is just meher. Most people have agendas. No? I'm saying, even someone that's fully objective, even someone that says no, he's not eisen bechlal that his book should be a bestseller. He's not eisen bechlal that his office should be the biggest market. Pashit he cares for the sake of tevis and nushius to find the best way for people to live. Even him, the world is an imperfect place. Das begets alles. Es begets alle Inyona. Andere Teilen halt nicht, this is and any aspect of life, the best and the most true and the most good is apiyatei. And in Welt, it's not ultimate good, and the good brings bad, and the emes and sheker bekeits it.
Makes sense according to Tamadas or not?
The saying that a person living his life, apiyatei, is Zaivim, Tishri, sometimes. That a mensch lives a level of Bidar Hatei, he's going to have a Chaim Mushar Megash's Ruh. Question every single, the Abishur's Tapas Hatei, there's Ein Ra Yer No Mail. So the Chachmas Hatei is the ultimate, Perkiyavis is the ultimate good and the ultimate truth. There's no aspect of false and there's no aspect of Ra. A person can't live up in Torah and it's going to cause him negative things. So I mentioned something that from the Eden because it's not Torah, but I'm saying if a person lives up in Torah, then there cannot be any Kuntres and his derech hachaim. What time are we starting to next time? 8:30. This is the consensus. 8:30. Okay, this is not the Kuntres. This is this truck.